Today we will be looking at a certain book, Prayers of the Cosmos, Meditations on the Aramaic Words of Jesus, translated and with commentary by Neil Douglas-Klotz, foreword by Matthew Fox. We investigate who an author or a evangelizing preacher, speaker, translator is. So we decided to have a look at the information behind Neil Douglas-Klotz, and we found this website, Upward Community Home, and he goes by the name of Saadi Shakur Chishti, and there's information about his parents and so forth, and his general history here, life history. He pursued a more secular university education. He became involved in anti-war and early ecological movements, and then worked as a professional investigative journalist. Yet he found himself burned out at 25 and doubting whether anyone, including himself, really made decisions on the basis of facts. For the most important choices he made in short life, he never had all or even most of the necessary information. So he asked himself what causes him to change, or what caused his change. The answer seemed to be something hidden inside him, in his psyche, or in his mind, or his subconscious. He didn't know which. He only knew that Eastern ways to still his mind didn't work. This set him on a spiritual search, led to an editorial book project where he found the words of Samuel L. Lewis, the Sufi Zen Buddhist teacher and founder of the Dances of Universal Peace, saying that before he died he wanted to learn to pray the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. That rang a bell with this particular man. Okay, so it looks like he's influenced by a Sufi Zen Buddhist teacher. That's probably why he has the strange pseudonym name here, Saadi Shakur Chishti. We're not too sure on that, but usually people that take on those sort of names, European people especially, are either into some sort of Hindu religion that's put out there or led by a certain European guru who tries to mix Roman Catholicism, Mary, with Hinduism, etc., etc. A lot of European people, when they become Muslim converts, they tend to call themselves Muhammadi al-Quran, whatever the name tends to be. It's just an example. We don't know exactly. But yeah, they seem to take on that sort of name, probably thinking that Muhammad, using the name Muhammad, will get them some sort of blessing. I'm not too sure on how they think in that process. Okay, so it's got more information about him and his wife, and it's got here Per Moin Eden Jablonski, the spiritual successor of Samuel L. Lewis, Sufi Ahmed Murad Chishti, 1996-71, who in turn was a student of Hazrat Ayat Khan Chishti and Pir Bakat Ali. Moin Eden was deeply dedicated to the fullest expression of one soul, which is the only true source of freedom. So should you watch out for this guy, be wary of this guy. Is he trying to mix Sufism with the ancient Aramaic or something along those lines? You'd have to go to this website, the Upward Community Home website, and read about him, study him, research him, to find out if he is into mixing faiths. Dr. Neil Douglas-Klotz is an internationally known scholar in the fields connecting religious studies and psychology, as well as a poet and musician. He is the author of these many books here, right? He's done a lot of books. It's listed. Okay, so we decided to find some more information on him. It didn't seem quite enough. Okay, Murshid Saadi Shakur Chishti. About the author. Saadi Shakur Chishti, Dr. Neil Douglas-Klotz, is an internationally known scholar in the fields connecting religious studies and psychology, as well as a poet and musician. He is the author of these sort of books again listed. and he does audio. He is the past chair of the mysticism group of the American Academy of Religion, and active in various international colloquia and conferences dedicated to peace and spirituality, and so forth. Still not enough. We looked at his particular book, review on it, and we found Prayers of the Cosmos by Neil Douglas-Klotz. Summary: Reinterpreting the Lord's Prayer, the Aramaic Lord's Prayer, and the Beatitudes from the vantage of Middle Eastern mysticism. Douglas-Klotz offers a radical new translation of the words of Jesus Christ that reveals a mystical feminist cosmic Christ. Okay, so this guy's like taking something and he's like reinterpreting it, probably twisting it. You'd have to read that particular book. But we found it of interest, this Prayers of the Cosmos, written by him, for various things inside the book. We're not too sure what this is here. It looks like Aramaic. Anyone who asks for this volume to read, collate or copy from, etc., etc. Just a note there, Prayers of the Cosmos. Forward by Matthew Fox. There's a contents page. Forward. Reader, beware. Though this book is brief, it contains the seeds of a revolution. Those who understand what is at stake in a paradigm shift will immediately grasp the power in this little book. A paradigm shift requires a new pair of glasses by which to look anew at our inherited treasures. Just as all translations of our mystics are affected by the ideology or worldview of the translator, so the same is true of the translations of our scriptures. Those who have lost a cosmology and the mysticism that accompanies it hardly recognise that fact when they translate the Bible for us. Yet Scripture, as the monks of old who chanted it daily, yes, that's true, the priests of the Apostolic Church of the East actually sung the Scriptures. Yet Scripture, as the monks of old who chanted it daily have attested, must be experienced with the heart and not just studied with the head. So much biblical training in our times tests young scholars for the latter, but does little to foster their former. Mysticism, banished from our academic life for 3 centuries, rarely emerges on the printed page of translators who become steeped in the words but not necessarily the music of the author's spirit and intention. When scriptural passages become overly familiar, matters of rote, memorized prayers instead of living words, religion is paralyzed and loses its capacity for transformation. Scripture then becomes the property of specialists. How disturbing and refreshing, therefore, is this effort by Neil Douglas-Klotz to recover the original language, the native Middle Eastern language, the Aramaic that Jesus spoke. How much expanded heart, consciousness and prophetic juice might result from hearing, for example, that what we have translated as be perfect really means be you all embracing, or that to be satisfied means to be surrounded by fruit. So is he saying here, embrace all religions, for they're all one? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, also means soften what's rigid inside, and you shall receive physical vigour and strength from the universe. That, blessed are the pure in heart, means blessed are those whose passion is electrified by deep, abiding purpose. That heaven in Aramaic means, in fact, the universe. Yeah, reading from the Galilean Aramaic, yeah, it does say to the end of the universe of universes. So yeah, you could probably go with that. And that the overly familiar words, lead us not into temptation, can be translated in this way. Don't let surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back. Can we get any more cosmological than that? Do the words of Jesus not take on new life and vigour in this version of his saying? Douglas-Klotz translations also revealed how feminist Jesus was. Okay, so he's trying to say that Jesus had feminist ideas, etc., etc. Consider that the word Jesus uses, which we have traditionally translated as kingdom, is related to the word for the great mother. Okay, so he's trying to feminize it all, by the sounds of it, the divine mother, in the Middle East. The word we translate as daily bread means nourishment of all kinds and derives from roots for the divine feminine and for holy wisdom or Sophia. Okay, so is he mixed up into sophist or sophist religion? Isn't that the ancient religion of the Romans or the Greeks, Sophia? Prayers of the Cosmos is not a book about mysticism in the Bible. It is a practical meditation that can draw the mystic out of the reader once again, just as the mystic who heard the startling words of Jesus 2,000 years ago was drawn out. This is a book that allows us to experience the scriptures once again through the heart, which means through the body, which means on earth, the source and origin of our bodies. Okay, in the ancient Hebrew, we have come to believe that the heart was actually referring to the mind. Douglas-Klotz's dedication to bringing the mystic out of self and others through the dances of the universal peace. Yeah, because Sufism, they do a lot of those spinning dances and stuff like that. So him possibly being of that particular sect, or influenced by it, would be practicing or performing these Sufi dances. We've seen that, had a go at it, and we were actually quite happy, you know. It was a really good feeling that people around you were smiling and all that. Okay, some people might say, "Oh, it's just fake." We sort of thought that, but yeah, no, we went there with a friend, and it was quite enjoyable. It was a really nice feeling, you know. The atmosphere was very nice. He teaches us truly to pray the scriptures anew, to understand prayer as more than reading or talking. If Hildegard of Bingen was correct 8 centuries ago in defining prayer as breathing in and breathing out the one breath of the universe, then Douglas-Klotz is also correct in insisting that we dance. That is, breathe the scriptures anew. Douglas-Klotz's version of the Lord's Prayer is like a commentary in itself. For centuries, theologians have offered us commentaries on this prayer of Jesus, but this one is like no other. It embraces ground's challenge. It opens our hearts to cosmology once again, as Jesus was open to cosmology, and as all native persons are. It allows the mysticism of our scriptural heritage to move us once again, maybe even to transform us. Okay, this Matthew Fox, founding director, Institute of Culture and Creation Spirituality, states here he welcomed this book and the rich fruit is sure to bear from reading this book. In the acknowledgement, pronunciation of the Aramaic words. The transcription of the Aramaic words into English characters is not meant to be a formal scholarly transliteration. The latter would have required the reader to learn yet another alphabet with special characters, probably along with the idioms. And this book is meant to be used by lay persons, just everyday Joes, or ordinary people, common people. The transcription used is very helpful when used in combination with a pronunciation chanting cassette tape that he prepared, and which would be available, or was available, from various offices of the Dances of Universal Peace Network in North America and Europe, as mentioned in the resource list at the end of this book. Introduction. The richness of expression presents in the native Aramaic language of Jesus. The richness of expression present in the native Aramaic language of Jesus is a treasure that has been lost or limited only to scholars for too long. To discover this treasure, we must challenge ourselves to participate in the prophetic and mystical tradition that Jesus has represented. It is a far cry from our ordinary way of thinking. A tradition of both native Middle Eastern and Hebraic mysticism says that each statement of sacred teaching must be examined from at least 3 points of view: the intellectual, the metaphorical, and the universal or mystical. From the first viewpoint, we consider the face value of the words in question, what so-called modern people normally call the literal meaning. According to native Middle Eastern mysticism, however, each Aramaic word presents several possible literal translations. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, could as easily be translated, blessed are the gentle, or blessed are those who have softened the rigidity within. Yeah, because the Easterners, they obviously have a different mindset, belief system, and they use idioms. It's the way they express themselves, bring themselves across, right? Which can be confusing at times, especially to Western mindsets who have been educated Western wise, been told by their religious leaders, etc., this is the way it is, this is what it means, etc., etc. And it all comes from the Greek. And these guys that are doing these transliterations are top experts, etc., etc. You get that pushed at you, right? From, say, people like agnostic, atheist, Bhatti, Ehrman, and others. The word for earth in Aramaic also carries the meaning of earth, appears. The word for earth in Aramaic also carries the meaning of earthiness, the natural abundance of nature and everything that appears in particular forms. To understand how all these relate to one another, we must go further. From the second viewpoint, we consider how a statement or story presents a metaphor in it for our lives, or the life of a community. Here we must awaken our poetic sensibility. We must participate in recreating meaning from several possible literal translations. With reference to the above saying of Jesus, where are the rigid places in our lives or in the life of our society? How do they prevent us from receiving sustenance from the natural abundance of nature? Well, looking at the original ancient, very old Aramaic of the Old Testament, the Lishana Artika Supriya of the Tale of Ashrit, and also the Galilean Aramaic manuscripts translated in English by a native-born Aramaic-speaking translator from Syria, Victor Alexander, we see that he basically is showing you in the nearest English equivalent what was actually being said, and then he provides footnotes for every chapter, every book, every chapter, and he tries to explain below that exactly what these Easterners were trying to say and put across to their potential readers. And these manuscripts were hidden and preserved for over 2,000 years, and they have been attested, it's been testified by former patriarch of the church, the Apostolic Church of the East, that they weren't tampered with when they're given to the high priest of that church, ancient church, by Thomas, etc. Again, they were hidden and preserved for 2,000 years, and they weren't tampered with, translated. They had no need to translate it into any other foreign language. So it was exclusively for their people who spoke the same language, and they read it as their liturgy to the people in their mass or their church congregation. So from the third viewpoint, the universal or mystical, one comes to a truth of the experience pointed to by a particular statement. Here we must go beyond seeing a prayer as an affirmation or petition, or a parable as mere metaphor. We must embrace the wordless experience to which the living words of a mystic point. Did we miss a page? I'm sure we didn't. To continue the above example, one faces the question, what do the words rigid and soft have to do with my experience of life, of the cosmos, of God? What feelings do the sound of the key words in Aramaic evoke? Or bring forth, right? What do they do for me? How do I act responsibly from this new understanding? There are no set answers to these questions. They challenge us to an individual response. To a native Middle Eastern mystic like Jesus, none of these viewpoints excludes the others. One holds all the possible meanings of key sacred phrases in prayer and lets them work inside. It's within you. According to the Hebrew sage and language scholar Faber de Olivet, 1815, or Olivet, not really sure, it might be French. In the Hebraic tongue restored, the tragedy of biblical translation has been that expressions meant to resonate many levels of meaning, at least the intellectual, metaphorical and universal, have been whittled down to become wholly gross in their nature, restricted to material and particular expressions. This tendency to divide and over-literalize was reflected on the whole Newtonian era, a period that repressed mystical cosmology, was also ill at ease with mystical translation. An unnatural division between God, nature and humanity, unknown to people who live close to the earth, crept into our language with the advent of modern civilization. Some of the difficulty harkens back to the source of our text and our thinking. Most of the English translation of the words of Jesus come from Greek, a language that differs greatly from Aramaic. Aramaic was the common spoken language throughout the Middle East at the time of Jesus, and the tongue in which he expressed his teachings. For example, Il Lamana Shriktani. That was Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic, not Greek. Hebrew was primarily a temple language at this time, as we stated in our other videos. Hebrew for all that was holy within the temple, or the rituals, etc. Aramaic on the outside for everything else. According to some scholars, Aramaic was a derivative of ancient Hebrew. Well, that's incorrect, because we found through our personal study, research, that it was actually that which helped create the Hebrew. But they're sister languages. Others say that Aramaic itself was older and based on still more ancient Middle Eastern roots. Although Greek was introduced into the Middle East after the conquest of Alexander the Great, it never became the language of the native peoples. Well, they did use the Koine Greek to translate the Aramaic from the Aramaic into the Greek, the Koine Greek. Aramaic served as the lingua franca, that's like the trendy language, until it was replaced by a derivative tongue, Arabic, during the rise of Islam. So we did our personal research and we came across some information that Muhammad loved the people of the book, probably the Arameans, and because the language was dying out, their trend was over and Arabic was about to take over, he decided to preserve it. So he used all in his Arabic throughout the Quran, supposedly. Aramaic served as the lingua franca until it was replaced by a derivative tongue, Arabic, during the rise of Islam, or Mohammedanism. Even so, Aramaic continued to be spoken widely in the Middle East into the 19th century and is still used in parts of Syria. But don't forget, that's a modern Syriac, right? As well as in the entire Church of the East, Apostolic Church of the East. Unlike Greek, Aramaic does not draw sharp lines between means and ends, or between an inner quality and an outer action. Both are always present. When Jesus refers to the kingdom of heaven, this kingdom is always both within and among us. Likewise, neighbour is both inside and outside, as is the self that we are to love to the same degree as our neighbour. So this, when Jesus refers to the kingdom of heaven, this kingdom is always both within and among us, is supposedly based on the ancient Egyptian saying, the kingdom of heaven is within. Maybe they were influenced by these Arameans and they took on that saying. Unlike Greek, Aramaic does not draw sharp lines between means and ends, or between an inequality and an outer action. Both are always present. When Jesus refers to the kingdom of heaven, this kingdom is always both within us, or within and among us. Likewise, neighbour is both inside and outside, as is the self that we are to love to the same degree as our neighbour. Unlike Greek, Aramaic presents a fluid and holistic view of the cosmos. The arbitrary borders found in Greek between mind, body and spirit fall away. Furthermore, like its sister languages, Hebrew and Arabic, well, what we've found through personal research again is that, so on Google or Wikipedia or something like that, the Nabatean is the grandparent language of it's the parent language of the Hebrew, the Aramaic, the Hebrew, the Syriac, and the grandparent language of the Arabic. So it's the child language of the Nabatean, the Arabic. So also it's been a gatepost or something like that found in the East, where it has the Arabic, it's the Syriac, or maybe it's Arabic, but it seems very similar to the Syriac. So they probably adapted the Syriac language, which became their own. You have to do the research on it yourself to prove that as established fact, or the evidence is evident. Unlike Greek, Aramaic presents a fluid and holistic view of the cosmos. The arbitrary borders found in Greek between mind, body and spirit fall away. Furthermore, like its sister languages, Hebrew and Aramaic can express many layers of meaning. Words are organized and defined based on a poetic root and pattern system, so that each word may have several meanings, at first seemingly unrelated, but upon contemplation revealing an inner connection. like you might have gamel, which may mean or be referring to camel, or rope. That's the mooring rope you tie ships to your dock with, right? So that way it float away. Words are organised and defined based on a poetic root and pattern system, so that each word may have several meanings, at first seemingly unrelated, but upon contemplation revealing an inner connection. The same word may be translated, for instance, as name, light, sound, or experience. Confronted with such variety, one needs to look at each word or phrase from several different points of view, the ones mentioned above and possibly others. Jesus showed a mastery of this use of transformative language, which survives even through inadequate translations. In addition, the Aramaic language is close to the earth, rich in images of planting and harvesting, full of views of the natural wonder of the cosmos. Heaven in Aramaic ceases to be a metaphysical concept and presents the image of light and sound shining through all creation. Like its native Middle Eastern predecessors, and like other ancient native languages around the planet, not those languages that came before it, Aramaic is rich in sound, meaning that is one can feel direction, colour, movement, and other sensations, as certain sacred words resonate in the body. This body resonance was another layer of meaning for the hearers of Jesus' words and for the native Middle Eastern mystic. In fact, this writer of this particular book finds similarities between some of the most important words used by Jesus and words used in native Middle Eastern chants for thousands of years before his time. Organisation of this book. Because of these special qualities of Aramaic and Jewish mysticism, the author was challenged to devise a structure that would begin to reveal the many facets shining in each statement, much as one would view the various facets of a cut crystal. The majority of this volume considers the lines of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. This cleansing prayer helps us to remember what is important in life and contains essential themes in Jesus' sayings. These themes portray a cycle of renewal, revealing a spiral journey through stages like those presented by the four paths of creation, spirituality, the paths of original blessing, letting go, breakthrough, and compassion. First, each line of the prayer is rendered according to the root meaning of the words, but from several different points of view as indicated above. Second, textual notes are given so that the reader may begin to understand the richness of the Aramaic roots and make her own connections or alternate translations, the metaphorical level. Third, the author had added open-ended meditations or body prayers which point toward an experience of the words of Jesus in one's body and life. These body prayers encourage one to participate in the sound and feeling of the words, as well as their intellectual or metaphorical meaning. To come closer to the experience that Jesus offered his hearers, we must extend our understanding beyond what we call the mind to the whole self. This is the mystical or universal level of interpretation. The basis of these body meditations stems from work passed on orally in the native Middle Eastern mystical tradition for thousands of years. The author has modified and reworked these four used by people today. So he's modified and reworked them. Or probably reconstructed them, right? There are no longer any secrets that are not already in plain view for those who can understand them. The author felt that the need of the earth is so great that we must do everything helpful to re-establish harmony with all creation. Following the Lord's Prayer, the author has also included versions of the Beatitudes, a rich source of Jesus' teachings but often confusing to the reader in present translation. These and the other sayings from the Gospels that follow show that including the mystical level of translation cleared up a number of difficulties. The author also provided for comparison parallel renderings for each section from the King James Version. In most cases, where there is not outright mistranslation, these versions are not wrong, but so limited in expression that they have proved misleading. The author states he did not believe that any of the more modern versions are substantially better. In each case where the Greek text has been taken as a source, translations have spawned theological concepts that are foreign to Aramaic thinking, as well as the author believed the thinking of Jesus himself. Text used. His source for the Aramaic text is a version of the Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the Gospels, also known as the Peshitta version, the original Eastern Peshitta probably, which Victor N. Alexander was translating from until he met a high priest of that church who said to him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm translating from this Peshitta." And this guy smiled, went away, came back, right? And this high priest then said to him, "Now what are you doing?" "Oh, I just finished Matthew, Mark, Luke." He says, using the Syriac Peshitta, translated from there. He says, "Why did you do that?" He says, "Oh, because it's the original, isn't it?" And he goes, "No, it's not. It's wrong." Okay, we're not too sure if he was talking about the Western Peshitta, but we believe that Victor N. Alexander, the translator from Mesopotamia, Syria, was translating from the Umayyad Bible, or Umi Bible. And the history of that is that the American missionaries went to Syria to try and convert the people at the time. They were called Atouri, Atouri, the Syrians, to Western Christianity. They didn't have a grammar, Syriac grammar, so they tried to create one, and they tried to translate the King James Version into Syriac, and they botched it. He came to realise that later, after a year of depression and all that sort of stuff, that he was translating from something that was actually wrong. But then he, given the Bible format copy of the original manuscripts given to the Apostolic Church of the East by the disciple Thomas, etc., he found a way to translate that old dead language into the nearest English equivalent. Okay? He discovered this method using the root words of the modern vernacular, or derivative, the Syriac, because he really wanted to bring the truth of the Aramaic scriptures, what it actually says and means, to all his Christian friends, American friends, etc. So this author's source for the Aramaic text is a version of the Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the Gospels, also known as the Peshitta version, that was prepared by the Reverend G. H. William and issued by the Clarendon Press in 1901. That's probably the American translation of the KJV into the Syriac that we were talking about. This version was available through the United Bible Societies, or is, probably still is. There is yet considerable scholarly controversy concerning the age and authority of the Peshitta and other early biblical manuscripts. There is the original Eastern Syriac that the Apostolic Church reads from. So it's probably referring to the Western Peshitta, which is untrusted by these Easterners. Right? Some biblical scholars believe that at least the Gospel of Matthew was first written in Aramaic, and the other Gospels drawn either from this text or from another hypothetical Aramaic document known as Q, from German Quelle source. Yeah, we've studied that a few years back, and supposedly in the margins, the scribes that translated it under the names D, under the letters D, E, S, and O, meaning evangelist, Yahwist, Elohimist, and all this sort of stuff. Find it and read it. Okay, don't take our word for it, because we're working here from memory of reading it. Yeah, the Friends of Jesus Society, etc. Other scholars regard Mark as the earliest gospel largely because it is the shortest and was perhaps a shorthand version. Still other primarily Eastern scholars maintain that all of the Gospels were originally written in Aramaic. Originally written in the Lishana Artica Cyprea of the original ancient Aramaic or Tav Asher square script. Still other primarily Eastern scholars maintain that all of the Gospels were originally written in Aramaic, since they were all intended for either Jewish or Gentile, but still Aramaic speaking listeners. For further information, the reader may refer to the resources listed at the end of this book. As Dr. George M. Lamsa, the pioneering Aramaic scholar of the 1930s, has pointed out, or had pointed out in his Holy Bible from ancient Eastern manuscripts, the Church of the East regards the Peshitta as the oldest and most authoritative version of the Bible. Okay, do they really? Because this Victor Alexander is talking about the Tau of Asher, which is way older. The Syriac is a dialect of that. Bashida means simple, sincere, or true. We read it means straight, but anyway. Bashida means simple, sincere, or true. With regards to the words of Jesus, this version may be as old as the 2nd century AD, according to some Eastern Christian scholars. So that Galilean Aramaic, translated by 15 Alexander, is a century older, supposedly hailing from 1st century AD. The Church of the East holds that if the Peshitta does not contain the oldest version, it is still much closer to the thoughts forms of Jesus than any Greek version. As Lamsa pointed out in his New Testament origin, there is much internal evidence to prove this. Most of the idiomatic confusions in the parables of Jesus are instantly cleared up when looked at from the Aramaic point of view. Well, the better one is Victor Alexander, who provides the footnotes, the idiom indications. He explains in his Disciples' New Testament, or the Aramaic New Testament. He has these footnotes in every book, in every chapter, underneath, right? These confusions arose when translators worked from Latin versions of Greek versions that themselves misunderstood the Aramaic. So this Latinized form of Greek, right? And that's where the confusion and misunderstandings come from. In all the religions of humankind, the sacred teachings have always been written down in the language of the founder. There is no question that Jesus and his followers spoke Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic. In addition, because they're all Galilean, all his disciples, well, most of his disciples were Galilean fishermen, weren't they? In addition, all the early Christian churches were Semitic in origin, or Jewish in origin, right? Jewish, Hebrew, or Israelite in origin. The Gospel was written first for the Jews and the lost sheep of the house of Israel, who were also Aramaic speakers. According to Lamsa in New Testament origin, not a word of either the Old or New Testament was originally written in Greek or any other European language. The theory that Jesus' teaching was first recorded in Greek was undoubtedly prompted by anti-Semitism. There might be a bit of racism there somewhere along the way as well. Prior to the British occupation of India and Egypt, the Western world knew hardly anything about the East. Almost everything which was written in Germany, England, and America relative to Eastern Christianity was conjectural or biased. Prejudiced, racist, or biased. We'll go with prejudiced or biased. Therefore, the whole body of evidence relative to the Bible theology and the people of the East must be re-examined in the light of the present findings in the Aramaic language. Paragraph 1, 17-18. Further, the prejudice toward Greek versions of the Gospels as most authoritative recapitulates the general ignorance of and prejudice against native peoples and their cultures on the part of civilized man for hundreds of years. Fortunately, this is beginning to change. Most Western schools, however, still teach that real culture began with the Greeks, a fact largely discredited by the archaeological and anthropological findings of recent decades. What we value in classical Greek, art, music, and spirituality, according to Rian Eisler in The Chalice and the Blade, seems to have been largely taken over from previous cultures that worshipped the Great Mother and attained a high degree of culture in a partnership society largely free of war and conflict. Native peoples in the Middle East also had a rich language, culture, and spirituality for thousands of years before Jesus. His inspired use of the many older sacred phrases, reaching back even beyond the Hebrew tradition, shows that a native mystical tradition did survive, probably in hiding or in the desert, both before and throughout the rise of Orthodox Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Some schools of Sufism claim to be among the inheritors of this native Middle Eastern tradition, which precedes even the Egyptian mystery schools. Those interested in further research in the Aramaic language are referred to the works of Dr. George M. Lamsa and those of his student and scholarly heir, Dr. Rocco A. Errico. We have studied some of his stuff, watched his videos, etc. In particular, the author was indebted to Dr. Errico for his warm help and referral to Aramaic language resources, as well as the published Peshitta edition he had used in his studies. Dr. Errico was currently working on a new Aramaic grammar that would make learning the basics of the language much easier than it is with the text now available. See the resources listed at the end of the book. So he would be teaching people the Syriac derivative or modern vernacular of the ancient Aramaic. The author's own research in Middle Eastern languages, which began 14 years prior to this book probably, has proceeded from an interest in the original meanings and sound values of sacred words from the Semitic language traditions. His inspiration was Samuel L. Lewis, a scholar and mystic schooled in Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, as well as Christianity, Sufism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. So he's been influenced by others outside of Christianity, other religions or belief systems outside of Christianity. His innovation, beyond the work of Doctors Lamsa and Errico, had been into the realm of the mystical expression of Jesus, the third level, particularly as it is found in the Aramaic roots of his words. As a native Assyrian, Lamsa was primarily interested in the idiomatic level, and his own translation of the Bible corrects hundreds of mistakes of this type that occur in other texts. See reference list. This is the same with Victor and Alexander. He found that all these people who had translated the original Aramaic botched it, having their own prejudice, bias, etc. Supposedly Lamsa didn't believe in the Trinity or the Triunity, so he left it out. Well, that's just what we've read. Whether it's true or not, you have to do your research on that, your own personal research. As a native Assyrian, Lamsa was primarily interested in the idiomatic level, and his own translation of the Bible corrects hundreds of mistakes of this type that occur in other texts. See reference list. To approach the third level of translation, one must not only acquire language skills, but also study the science of sound, and leaders common to the Middle Eastern mystical traditions. This science points to states of meditation and awareness that must be experienced, not just studied intellectually. In this work, therefore, the author had approached Jesus' words as a translator, poet, student, and teacher of native mysticism, rather than a theologian. These translations are his own, and the reader is free to call them versions or commentaries if this helps to assimilate them. The effect of the mystical is not to mystify, but to return all to a better relationship with the cosmos, which is the heritage of all native traditions. As his main source for deeper interpretation of Aramaic roots, he's used Fabre de Olivet, the Hebraic tongue restored. Although written in 1815, this is still a primary published reference for the complete interpretation of these roots. The material survives elsewhere as an oral tradition in Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, and Sufism. De Olivet includes many cross-references to other Middle Eastern languages. Because there is as yet no complete Aramaic English dictionary, one must search for additional help in various Syriac lexicons and keys to the Peshitta. Note that. One must search for additional help in various Syriac, the modern derivative, lexicons and keys to the Peshitta. In addition to the study of Aramaic, the author had also drawn from his language research into Arabic, a tongue that evolved from Aramaic, or possibly the Syriac. All the major contemporary traditions of the Middle East, Jewish, Christian and Islamic, stem from the same source, the same earth, and probably the same language. All originally called God either El or Al, which means that, the one or that one, which expresses itself uniquely through all things. Well, look at Victor N. Alexander's testimony of the word El. It originated from Canaan. It's Canaan Ugaritic, and it's the article the. Someone had said to us, "Oh no, you're wrong. It's ha." Okay, well, ha is the. The article that is not an article the. It's not an article this sort of stuff, right? But if you call your God, or you refer to your God in the English the God, or the gods, well then that's the article that, isn't it? In the English, in the Aramaic or Hebrew, it could be different. Okay, so all originally called God either El or Al. The original name of God was Il, which means that, the one or that one which expresses itself uniquely through all things. From this root arises the sacred names Elat, that's Old Canaanite, Elohim, Hebrew, Allah, Aramaic, and Allah, Arabic. If this simple fact became better teaching, let's jump a page. Don't think we did. Let's go back. If this simple fact became better known, the author believed there would be much more tolerance and understanding among those who consciously or unconsciously perpetuate prejudice between what are essentially brother-sister traditions. The poetic form of most of his English versions is a long line used in the verse of Walt Whitman and William Blake. In this regard, the author was indebted to the suggestion of American poet Robert Bly, who pointed out this form's sonorous rolling qualities similar to the tones of the King James Version of the Bible. In addition, the author had included an approximate transliteration of the Aramaic characters into English so that readers may sound out the original and feel its tempo, rhythm and vibration as part of their own body prayer. We think this could be the Syriac he's referring to, not the original ancient long dead old tongue or language, the Tav Asher, or the Syrian Aramaic or Aramaic, the Lishana Tika Safraya, sacred scribal language of God. Allowing for the fact that several dialects of Aramaic exist and that this book is intended for non-scholars, just the everyday person, right? He sacrificed some accuracy in the transliteration. In order to use regular English characters rather than linguistic symbols. Interested scholars may refer to the reference list at the end of the book for resources on learning to read the Aramaic characters or for recordings of them being read and sung. Questions may arise about this work simply because the author has approached the words of Jesus rather than those of another mystic. Are these versions literal? Are they inspired, like the Authorized Version, King James Version? These questions presume a certain theological orientation based largely on beliefs with which the author did not wish to quarrel over. As he indicates, there may be many literal versions of the same passage in Aramaic. Regarding the second edition, he also believed that inspiration is as available today as it was in the time of King James, and available in the living experience of those who have followed in the footsteps of Jesus. Jesus was neither a scholar nor a theologian. His words ring across the ages, even in limited translation, and strike at the heart of our dilemmas and questions. From this work, the author hoped and prayed that many inspired translations may have occurred, in both the transformed words and the actions of those who confronted the cosmic Christ through the words of the Aramaic Jesus. Author Neil Douglas-Klotz. Okay, here's the Lord's Prayer in the Aramaic, apparently. You have the variations, right? Roughly, because we're not fluent Aramaic speakers, but something like Abun de Bushmaya, Nikadash Shamak, Tete Malkuthak, etc., etc. It's probably best to go and find either Victor Alexander that pronounces the Lord's Prayer. We could bring in that audio, or someone else who's a native-born Aramaic Syriac speaker. Which basically, here you have the King James English translation. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, etc., etc. Matthew 6:19-13 King James Version, which is possibly incorrect, because in the Aramaic translation of 15 Alexander, it's like the kingdom has come. Do go back there, look at that. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom has come, thy will has been done on earth as it was in heaven. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And it's different here where it says lead us not into temptation. God doesn't lead you into temptation. Basically in the Aramaic is something like let us not fall into temptation, and so forth. It's very different from the King James Version. Here is our birth in unity, Abun de Bushmaya, King James Version, our Father which art in heaven. O birth, the Father, Mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us, etc. Textual notes. The prayer begins with an expression of the divine creation and the blessing that emanates from all parenting. The ancient Middle Eastern root ab refers to all fruit, all germination proceeding from the source of unity. This root came to be used in the Aramaic word for personal father, Abba, but still echoes its original ungendered root and sound meaning. While Abun is the derivative of this word for personal father, its original roots do not specify a gender and could be translated divine parent. These roots reveal many levels of meaning. Bun shows the ray of emanation of that father, motherhood proceeding from potential to actual here and now. In Aramaic, the character for B may also be pronounced W or include shades of both. An Aramaic scholar, the Reverend Ma Apram, 1981, notes that the same root Ab may stand for personal father or spiritual father, depending on whether the W for personal or the B for spiritual is emphasized. No doubt Jesus meant there to be an echo of both, as Aramaic is rich in this sublime wordplay. Further, according to the mystical science of sounds and letters, common to both Aramaic and Hebrew, the word Abun points beyond our changing concepts of male and female to a cosmic birthing process. At this level of interpretation, Abun may be said to have four parts to its sound meaning. A, the absolute, the only being, the pure oneness and unity, etc. Echoing to the ancient sacred sound Al, and the Aramaic word for God, Allah, literally the oneness. BW there, a birthing, a creation of flow of blessing as if from the interior of this oneness to us. It's double O's here, the breath or spirit that carries this flow, and so forth. This sound is linked to the Aramaic phrase Rukha Dikocha. I'm not too sure you say it, Rukha Dikucha, which was later translated as Holy Spirit. Okay, in the Hebrew I think it's Ruach HaKadosh. In the vibration of this creative breath from oneness as it touches, interprets, interpenetrates, form, and so forth. And plenty more here. Body prayers. In the first line of Jesus' prayer, we remember our origins not in guilt or imperfection, but in blessing and unity in both vibration and stillness. For the divine breath, Rukha, touches even the absence of what we can measure as light or sound. One, intone the sound A-boon, slowly finding a pitch, and it tells you what to do. Instructions here by the author. Clearing space for the name to live. Nith Kadash Shmak, by the looks of it. Textual notes. See, here in the ancient Aramaic they didn't have vowels, they had consonants. So the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the Hebrew were sister languages, right? They had the same words, same meanings, but when perhaps the Masoretes came along and added the vowels to the consonants, it not only changed the structure of the language but also the meaning of the words. So you ended up with similar words but with different meanings. For example, Iyuma, immeasurable period, era, age, eon, day with a capital D, and the Hebrew Yom, day, a day of the week. Isn't a day of the week. In the second line of the prayer, the root. So yeah, this here without the vowels is Shim. Right? We like Shim, right? That's the trilateral rule. Okay, it's called the trilateral rule. Then vowels were added, so it becomes Shem. Okay. In the second line of the prayer, the root Shem, the divine name, light, sound, experience returns in a more specific form. In the first line, Shem was spread throughout the universe. It was part of the underlying unity in which everything lives. Here we affirm that the name will become Kadash, holy, from which the Hebrew word kasher or kosher is drawn. In Aramaic, one makes a thing hold by setting it apart, separating it for a specific purpose. Because this Aramaic construct occurs equally inside as well as outside of us, we might say that when we separate something, hold it and violate, we create for it a holy place within, and so forth. Here is clearing space, more body prayers. And to create this holy place inside yourself, some letting go is necessary. If the room is full of old knickknacks, there is no space for a shrine. If the flute is clogged, no music can come through. The sounds of this phrase indicate a way to begin this letting go. They lead us to a sensation of the heart, lungs area, etc., etc. Okay, there's a couple of steps there. How to do that. Third line of prayer, body prayers with instructions how to do it, how to best get the benefits from it. Okay, and there's more here, and it continues like that throughout the book. Oops. So we believe it's a very interesting book to read and learn from. Just be wary of this author and what his affiliations actually are. Okay, because it sounds like he's mixing things. Many religions with the Aramaic. Okay, these are sayings of Jesus. We're trying to find the actual index with the resources list. Okay, we haven't found it. It's probably in there somewhere. Okay, so that's it from us. Okay, if you liked this video and you're interested in this book, we'll leave the link to it below this video. Don't forget to subscribe to us, giving us a like, adding your comments, and we'll get back to you on those as soon as we can. And then you can share this with your family and friends and others. Thank you for taking the time to view this, our latest video created and uploaded to our channel, The Ministry of the Real Truth, where we bring you the real truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. As we stated, reflect on this particular person and their affiliations, their religious affiliations, and do more research on this guy if you can, and then come to your own conclusion. Should I be wary of this guy, or should I incorporate what he's suggesting? Should I try it? Okay, should I put it into my Christian life? It being a mixture of Sufism, Hinduism, etc., etc. Right? If that's what he's made in his statement, the information about himself has revealed. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch our video. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Add your comments below after you give us a like, and we'll get back to you on those as soon as we can. Then go share it with all those that you know and love.